The simple life setting. Colony world of New Terra. A peaceful farming planet on the edge of known space. Characters. Elena, young alien woman from the proud Velian warrior race, known for their blue skin and natural combat abilities. Jack, human. Colonist, appears to be a simple farmer and mechanic Commander Voss, Velian military officer. Elena's former suitor plot. Elena had been living on New Terra for 2 years now, far from her homeworld of Velia Prime. She had chosen exile, rather than marry Commander Voss, a decorated warrior her family had selected for her. The Velian society valued strength above all else, and she had grown tired of their endless wars and honor-bound traditions. When she first met Jack at the local market, she was struck by his gentle nature. He was nothing like the fierce warriors of her people. Jack ran a small farm on the outskirts of the colony, growing vegetables and fixing broken equipment for his neighbors. He spoke softly, smiled often, and never raised his voice. To Elena, he represented everything her violent culture lacked: peace, kindness, and simple contentment. Their courtship was quiet and sweet. Jack would bring her fresh flowers from his garden, and they would sit on his porch watching the twin suns set over the golden fields. He never boasted about battles or showed off his strength like Velian males did. Instead, he told her stories about Earth, about music and art and literature. He had calloused hands from honest work, not from wielding weapons. Elena's few Velian friends on the colony thought she was making a mistake. Humans are weak, they would say. They have no honor, no warrior spirit. How can you bind yourself to such a soft creature? But Elena didn't care. She had found something rare, genuine. Love without violence. They married in a simple ceremony at the colony's community center. Jack wore a plain brown suit that he had owned for years, and Elena wore a simple white dress instead of the elaborate armor gowns traditional for Velian weddings. The human colonists welcomed her warmly, while the few Velians in attendance seemed disappointed by the modest affair. For 6 months, they lived in blissful simplicity. Elena learned to tend the garden, and Jack taught her to repair the old farming equipment. She had never been happier. Her husband was everything she had hoped for: kind, patient, and completely uninterested in the warrior culture that had defined her entire life. Elena began to let her guard down, something she had never done on Velia Prime. She stopped her daily combat training and allowed her fighting instincts to grow dull. Why would she need them here? Jack protected her in his own way, through love, through providing for her, through making her feel safe in a way that had nothing to do with violence. The other humans in the colony treated Jack with quiet respect, though Elena noticed they often seemed to defer to him in subtle ways. When there were disputes to settle or difficult decisions to make, people naturally looked to her husband for guidance. She assumed it was because he had been on New Terra longer than most, or perhaps because he was simply well-liked. Elena had no idea that Jack's small farm was carefully positioned to provide an optimal view of all approach routes to the colony. She didn't know that his seemingly random trips to fix equipment were actually reconnaissance missions to check the colony's defenses. The workshop where he repaired farming tools was also home to a carefully maintained arsenal that no civilian should possess. Jack's gentle demeanor masked decades of military training and combat experience. His calloused hands were indeed from honest work, but they had also held weapons in battles across 3 star systems. The stories he told Elena about Earth were true, but he left out his years serving in the Terran Colonial Defense Force, where he had earned a reputation as one of humanity's most effective special operations officers. The peace they had built together was about to be shattered. Unknown to either of them, Commander Voss had finally tracked Elena to New Terra. He was approaching with a full Velian battlecruiser, determined to reclaim what he considered his rightful bride and to punish the weak human who had dared to. merry Avelian warriors intended mate Dot as Elena prepared breakfast in their small kitchen. Humming a Velian lullaby that Jack had learned to love, she had no idea that her two worlds were about to collide. The gentle farmer she had married was about to remember skills he had hoped never to use again, and she was about to discover that even humans could be warriors when the people they loved were. Threatened Dot, the first sign of trouble would come at sunset, when the long-range sensors that Jack had secretly installed began detecting an approaching ship. Asterisked the arrival, the warning came at sunset, just as Elena had predicted in her heart. Jack's communicator buzzed with an urgent message from the colony's control tower. His face grew serious as he read the display, and Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "What is it?" she asked, though part of her already knew. "Unknown ship. Entering our system," Jack replied, his voice calm but different somehow. Large vessel, military configuration. Elena's blood turned cold. Only one military force would come looking for her here. The Velians had found her Dot within an hour. The sleek black form of a Velian battlecruiser dominated the sky above New Terra. It hung in the atmosphere like a predator, its weapons trained on the small farming colony below. Elena recognized the ship's markings immediately. It was Voss's personal command vessel, the Iron Talon. The colony's simple communication system crackled to life with an incoming transmission. Commander Voss's harsh voice filled the small community center where the frightened colonists had gathered. "Citizens of New Terra," Voss announced, his words dripping with disdain. "I am Commander Voss of the Velian military caste. I have come to retrieve stolen property. A Velian female who has dishonored herself by mating with an inferior species." Elena felt every eye in the room turn toward her. The human colonists looked confused and worried, while the few Velians present seemed ashamed. She wanted to disappear, but Jack's steady hand on her shoulder kept her grounded. Furthermore, Voss continued, "The human male who dared to claim what belongs to a Velian warrior will face judgment. He will meet me in single combat, or I will reduce this pathetic settlement to ash." The transmission ended, leaving the community center in shocked silence. Elena began to shake, not from fear, but from rage. How dare Voss follow her here and threaten innocent people? How dare he call her property? "We should evacuate," suggested Mayor Harrison, an elderly human who had founded the colony. "Get everyone to the emergency shelters." "That won't help," Elena said bitterly. "Velian sensors will find us anywhere on this planet. And Voss isn't bluffing about destroying the colony. He's done it before to make examples. Then what do we do?" asked Dr. Martinez, the colony's physician. All eyes turned to Jack, who had been unusually quiet since the transmission. Elena expected him to look terrified, to suggest they try to run or hide. Instead, she saw something in his expression that she had never seen before, a cold, calculating look that seemed completely foreign on her gentle husband's face. "I'll meet with him," Jack said simply. "What?" Elena grabbed his arm. "Jack, no. You don't understand what you're saying. Voss is a trained killer, a decorated warrior. He's fought in dozens of campaigns. You're a farmer." Jack looked at her with sad, gentle eyes, the same eyes that had fallen in love with her kindness, the same eyes that watched sunsets with her on their porch. But underneath, Elena caught a glimpse of something steel-hard and unbreakable. "Maybe we can talk this through," Jack said. "Maybe I can convince him to leave peacefully." Elena wanted to scream. Her sweet, naive husband had no idea what kind of monster Voss was. The commander had earned his reputation by showing no mercy to anyone he considered weak or inferior. Diplomacy was a foreign concept to him. An hour later, they stood in the Eye, colony's main square, as a Velian shuttle descended from the orbiting cruiser. The craft landed with military precision, and Commander Voss emerged flanked by 4 armed warriors. Alana's heart sank as she saw him again. Voss was everything Velian. Society admired, tall, powerful, covered in ritual scars that marked his victories. His blue skin gleamed with bioenhancement implants, and his eyes burned with fanatic devotion to the warrior code. Next to him, Jack looked small and ordinary in his simple work clothes. "So," Voss said, his voice carrying easily across the square, "this is the weak creature who dared to steal my intended mate." He looked Jack up and down with obvious disgust. "Pathetic. Elena, come here now, and I might allow this insect to live." "She's not going anywhere," Jack replied quietly. Voss laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "The little human has courage, at least. Very well. I challenge you to single combat, as is my right under Velian law. When I kill you, Elena will return to Velia Prime, where she belongs." Jack stepped forward, and Elena noticed something strange. The other human colonists weren't looking at him with pity or fear anymore. They were watching him with something that looked almost like anticipation. "I accept your challenge," Jack said. The revelation. The combat circle was drawn in the dirt of the colony's main square. Ancient Velian tradition, demanding a proper arena for honorable combat. Elena watched in growing horror as Voss removed his ceremonial armor, revealing a body covered in scars and biomechanical enhancements. His muscles rippled with artificial strength boosters, and his claws had been surgically sharpened to razor points. "Last chance, human," Voss called out as he stretched his enhanced limbs. "Kneel before me, admit your weakness, and I might grant you a quick death." Jack said nothing. He walked slowly to the edge of the circle, his movements casual and unhurried. Elena wanted to run to him, to pull him away from this madness, but Mayor Harrison gently held her back. "Trust him," the old man whispered, and Elena was shocked to hear confidence in his voice instead of fear. "What weapons do you choose?" Voss demanded, gesturing to the array of Velian blades his warriors had laid out. "Plasma sword? Energy lance? Or perhaps you prefer to die with your bare hands like the animal you are?" Jack looked at the offered weapons and shook his head. "I'll use my own, thanks." He walked toward his house at the edge of the square, leaving everyone confused. Elena started to follow, but Jack held up a hand to stop her. "Wait here," he said gently. "I'll be right back." When Jack returned, Elena's world shifted on its axis. In his hands was a sword unlike anything she had ever seen. It wasn't the sleek, high-tech weapons of modern warfare, but something older, something that seemed to carry the weight of history itself. The blade was simple in design, straight, double-edged, with a plain crossguard and leather-wrapped handle. But there was something about it that made even Voss take a step back. The metal seemed to drink in the light, and strange symbols were etched along its length. "What is that primitive thing?" Voss sneered, but Elena caught the uncertainty in his voice. "This," Jack said quietly, hefting the ancient blade, "is a Terran military sword. It belonged to my grandfather, and his grandfather before him. It's been in my family for over 200 years. As Jack spoke, Elena noticed changes in him that she had somehow missed before. His stance was different, balanced, ready, like a coiled spring. His eyes had lost their gentle warmth and become cold and focused. Even his voice carried a new authority that made her spine tingle. "You see, Voss," Jack continued, beginning, "to circle the edge of the combat ring, you made a mistake. You assumed that because humans choose peace, we're weak. You thought that because we prefer farming to fighting, we can't fight at all." The sword moved in Jack's hands like it was alive, cutting through the air in practice forms that were clearly second nature to him. Elena watched in amazement as her quiet husband transformed before her eyes. "The truth is," Jack said, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent square, "humans are very good at war. We've been practicing it for thousands of years. We just got tired of it." Voss snarled and drew his own weapon, a gleaming plasma sword that hummed with deadly energy. Enough talk, primitive. Your ancient blade is no match for Velian technology. He lunged forward with enhanced speed, his plasma sword leaving a trail of superheated air. Elena gasped, certain that Jack would be cut down instantly. But her husband wasn't there anymore. He had moved aside with fluid grace, and his ancient blade sang through the air where Voss's neck had been a moment before. The commander stumbled, shocked by his opponent's speed. Impossible. You're just a farmer. I was. A farmer, Jack corrected, settling into a combat stance that Elena now recognized as purely professional. Before that, I was Lieutenant Colonel Jack Morrison, Terran Colonial Defense Force, Special Operations Division. Elena's legs nearly gave out. Colonial Defense Force? Special Operations? Her gentle husband had been a soldier, not just any soldier, but an officer in humanity's most elite military unit. I served 3 tours in the Centauri conflicts, Jack continued, his sword moving in slow, hypnotic patterns. 2 tours in the vegan border wars. I've fought pirates, raiders, and worse things than you can imagine. I came to New Terra because I was tired of killing, not because I couldn't do it. Voss attacked again, this time with calculated fury. His plasma sword met Jack's ancient blade in a shower of sparks and deadly light. But something impossible happened. The primitive human weapon not only survived contact with advanced Velian technology, it seemed to absorb the energy and grow stronger. Elena watched her husband fight with skills that spoke of years of deadly experience, and she realized that she had never really known him at all. Asterisk.